Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Moises Esparza. I'm the exhibitions manager for the San Diego Latino Film Festival. I'm here with Juan Lopez, our shorts programmer. How are you, Juan?
Good, how about you?
Good, good, good. It's a new day at the festival, day 3. We've had some great films play so far, and some equally amazing films playing today as well. And we have over 140 feature and short films playing throughout the festival. So there's definitely something for everybody. And yeah, it's only day 3, so there's plenty of time to watch movies at our film festival.
Yeah, and if you didn't have a chance to catch a lot of the films in the first weekend, a lot of them are going to be playing throughout the week and next weekend. So there is multiple opportunities to watch to catch some of these films.
Right, and then if you are interested in seeing any of the Q&As that we had yesterday, we had them posted on social media. So if you'd like to hear back from or if you'd like to hear feedback from some of our participating directors, you can always go on our social media channels and find the conversations there. Or many of them play right after the film through the Eventive platform. So there's definitely many ways for you to not only watch the films, but interact with the filmmakers. And filmmaker interaction is really the reason why we're here this morning, correct?
Yeah. I mean, one of the awesome things we were talking, we like to reiterate is one of the cool things about having this space is that we can talk to filmmakers from anywhere at any time, and we have filmmakers connecting with us from all over the world. So and today we're gonna talk a little bit about the filmmakers there from the features and some of the short films who are gonna be playing today. We'll be joined in just a couple minutes so we hear from them.
Yeah, it's all very exciting to be able to engage with filmmakers from all over the world who may not have had the opportunity to come to the actual film festival when we do host it during in-person moments in our lives. But this has given us the opportunity to reach out to these filmmakers and bring them on for these conversations. Just to be just a point I wanted to make is the conversation will be kind of free flowing in dialogue. We might alternate between Spanish and English depending on the filmmaker. We'll translate a little bit as we go along, but we find that maybe that sometimes stilts the conversation a bit. So for anyone viewing, if you'd like a translation about something someone said, post it on the comments and we'll try to translate. But yeah, this is kind of a free-flowing conversation, and we'll be going in between English and Spanish. And the comment feature is really cool. So if you're on social media, on Facebook or YouTube on our San Diego Latino Film Festival page, drop us a comment and we can bring it on screen. Type out a question, we'll also bring it on screen. So it's a really engaging conversation method of communicating with the filmmakers. So we're gonna have a full house. We'll have 2 groups of filmmakers. One that we'll bring on now, and then there's going to be some filmmakers tuning in about 35 minutes. So we'll bring them in at that point and say goodbye to these initial filmmakers. I've never been so knowledgeable about time zones, Juan. Coordinating these Q&As has been a little bit of a puzzle.
Yeah, it has. The other day I was a filmmaker who told me he said, I'm in Panama City, and I was like, okay, it's a Panama City in Florida, but there's also one in Panama. So then I spent like 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure out what time zone they're in, and then it just ended up being that it was the same time zone for both cities. But I went a little crazy for a second, trying to make sure that I'm giving them the correct information. But yeah, it's been fun. We're learning a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going back to school being like, okay, this is how you tell time. And this is how time zones work. But enough about us. Let's bring on some of the filmmakers who are participating in our film festival today. I'm going to add them in one by one. We have Luna Maran. Tenemos a Luna Maran, directora de Tío Jim. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola a todo el mundo que nos esté escuchando o viendo por el internet. Un saludo desde Oaxaca, desde la Sierra Norte.
We have Victor and Vanessa, the team behind Bibi. Hola, hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you all?
Hi,
Thank you so
guys.
much for the invitation, and everyone who's watching. Thank you so much for tuning in and catching some wonderful shorts and films this festival.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I'll second that. Congrats, guys.
Oh, sorry about that, Vanessa. I didn't mean to step on your introduction.
Technology.
We have Ray Santistevan, the director of the First Rainbow Coalition. Hi, Ray. How are you?
Great. Thanks for inviting me to this, and I'm really excited that the festival is going on because there's so many great films, and sometimes folks don't get a chance to see them. So I'm glad. In some ways, maybe you'll get a new audience, right? Because they don't have to physically go to San Diego. So I'm excited about that it's moving forward.
Thank you, Ray. And then, lastly, for now, we have Andres Kaiser, the director of Feral. Hello, Andres. Hola, Andres. How are you?
Hi, Moises. Very nice to meet you finally. Hola, Luna.
Hola, Andrés.
I feel like we're in a very cool episode of the Brady Bunch with a little square so we can look up or down. So the conversation, we wanted to be really free-flowing. I think yesterday we might have been too stilted and been like everyone has to answer each question, which maybe wasn't that exciting for the filmmakers participating. So Juan and I will throw some questions out there. I don't know, just maybe indicate if you want to answer them by showing, like, by raising your hand, and we'll call on you. And that might just help with a more open conversation. So vamos a manejar esta sesión un poco con poquita estructura. Vamos a hacer preguntas. No todos tienen que contestarlas. Si quieren contestar la pregunta, pueden indicarnos pueden levantar su mano o algo así para que la conversación se mantenga un poco abierta. I said this at the beginning, but we are going to alternate between Spanish and English. If anyone needs a translation, let us know in the comments. But we'll translate a little bit, but not word for word, so we can keep the conversation going. Vamos a tener la conversación en inglés y en español. Si necesitan una traducción, pueden dejarnos un comentario y podemos traducir una respuesta. Pero sí, la conversación va a ser abierta entre español e inglés. Vamos a empezar. Ok, nos entró un comentario del director del festival. Thank you all for your support and showing your move to San Diegans. This is a perfect example of how you can leave a comment or a question, and we'll bring it on screen. Okay, let's get started with the first question. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but what are some creative outlets that you've been using during these pandemic times? ¿Cuáles son unas metodologías de creatividad que están utilizando durante estos tiempos de la pandemia? ¿Quién quiere empezar? Si no, los voy a llamar por nombre. Okay, Victor, ¿qué opinas? What do you say, Victor?
Yeah, I think it is a very interesting time right now, and I've taken this time to really work on projects that I sort of had on the back burner. So it's been a great time to just sit and write and create and think and sort of ponder, all the possibilities of what we could be creating. And then watching a lot of films that I haven't had time to because I've been on project after project. So I've been going back and just getting on, streaming services and cable and finding amazing gems that I've wanted to watch. They're on my list, but just hadn't had the time to. So, it's been a great time for that.
What movie do you recommend we all watch? ¿Cuál película recomiendas?
I mean, hay muchas, pero, it's sad to say I hadn't seen A Shape of Water, and I absolutely love it. And it was on my list, and I had a bunch of other stuff that I'd been wanted to watch, but that was one that I recently saw that I should have seen a long time ago, but never. Better late than never, I guess.
Okay, who goes next? Luna, ¿qué opinas? ¿Cómo te estás expresando creativa?
Que es una mezcla como de tomar mezcal, fumar rico, comer sabroso, darse su tiempo para cocinar, como hablar mucho con los amigos. Yo creo que estar en contacto, ya sea con el medio, ¿no? Yo tengo como la suerte de vivir en una especie de comuna, entonces la verdad es que no es que la sufra tanto, y pues más bien como darse chance de poder estar con la gente que sí puedes estar y con quien no también poder como comunicarse y que fluyan, ¿no? O sea, que fluyan las emociones y que puedan entonces bajarse las ideas, ¿no? Y continuar, sobre todo como la energía, ¿no? En mi caso como que se paró el rodaje de mi primera ficción, entonces como que también hay un ejercicio ahí como de retomar la energía para seguir desarrollando el proyecto, reconstruirlo, mejorarlo, profundizarlo. La verdad es que no está de todo mal. Yo creo que soy muy afortunada de estar en donde estoy y como en las condiciones, ¿no? En las que me ha tocado la pandemia. Así que, pues sí, eso y más mezcal, creo que tampoco está tan mal.
Sí, el mezcal siempre cae muy, muy bien. Ray, how are you staying creative during these times?
Well, I mean, there was like a downtime where I was trying to figure out what to do. How do I mean, I do documentaries, so I have to interact with people. And then I was also worried about the danger of the COVID, not necessarily just for me, but for the people I'm in contact with, because, they say, they're asymptomatic. So I was like, do I have the COVID, so I didn't want to be around other people. And so I didn't do a lot of shooting for a while, but now, I've been trying to do stuff outside where I tape outside and trying to move forward with my films. But I have been working on proposals because, again, that's a different way to move forward. And so, which has been great. I've actually been getting, some grants for some other films. So I've just kind of shifted my priority. Normally I like to shoot a lot, and I've kind of backed off of that, and I've been focusing on proposals and also thinking like down the line, like trying to plan films out maybe 2 or 3 years down the line a little bit more than I normally would. And that's kind of kept me at least energized, like mentally, because normally I was like in a panic mode, like how do I do what I do? And I think everyone's probably been in the same boat.
Thank you, Ray, for your answer. Something that we approach pretty head-on in our festival is the topic of representation. Un tema que tomamos muy en serio en el festival es la cuestión de la representación. I want to know how your films represent the type of movies you want to see more of. Quiero saber cómo sus películas son representativas del tipo de cine que quieren ver ustedes. Vamos a empezar con Andrés. Let's begin with Andrés.
Sí, yo creo que como bien dijiste también uno hace, o por lo menos en mi caso, yo hago las películas que me gustaría ver también, ¿no? O una película que me gustaría ver. Ese es como un punto de partida. Y en ese sentido, creo que también es muy importante que cada película temáticamente, sea ficción o documental, tiene unas necesidades bien distintas, ¿no? O unas necesidades propias, más bien. Entonces, en el caso de Feral, que la historia se desarrolla justamente en la Sierra Oaxaqueña, por ahí por donde está Luna, había, desde la construcción del guión y la construcción de la historia, era muy importante imaginarnos cuáles eran estos personajes y cuál era el trasfondo de cada uno de ellos. Y la película tenía una apuesta formal por ser hiperrealista. Entonces, en este sentido, por ejemplo, teníamos a un personaje, claro, que es extraño, digamos, seguir este patrón americano en donde nos vemos, yo qué sé, Gladiador, donde estamos en la Roma antigua y todo el mundo habla inglés, ¿no? Digo, hay una cuestión práctica por no traer el latín a la conversación, nadie entendería nada. Pero siempre sucede eso, ¿no? Películas en la Segunda Guerra Mundial donde los alemanes hablan inglés entre ellos. Entonces, era realmente como tratar de entender desde dónde se contaban las cosas. Entonces, hay un personaje, por ejemplo, que habla en su lengua natal, ¿no? Entonces, eso era importante, hacer, al mismo tiempo que le daba a la película un toque de realidad, de hiperrealidad, pues también traía la conversación que se puede hacer eso, ¿no? Y si tenemos subtítulos todo el tiempo para leer en inglés en México, pues ¿por qué no tener subtítulos para leer otras lenguas propias que se hablan también en el país, ¿no? Eso en el caso de la digamos, propio de Feral y con cada uno de los personajes fue eso. En otros proyectos, en proyectos que estoy preparando, pues tienen sus propias necesidades, ¿no? El otro gira más bien alrededor de la representación femenina, por ejemplo, que también es un tema, ¿no? Como la representación femenina y la historia es en el siglo XVIII en las castas de la Nueva España. Entonces imagínate el repertorio, digamos, el repertorio de clase y de etnia que tienes ahí es enorme. Entonces ese proyecto hay que pensarlo con sus propias necesidades y ser muy cuidadoso en que la representación sea, o sea, la pide el propio proyecto y eso creo que se ve reflejado de una manera orgánica en la pantalla o el espectador lo disfruta de una manera orgánica, ¿no? Eso es lo que yo creo.
Gracias, Andrés. Thank you, Andrés. We're going to add a new filmmaker to the group who just tuned in. Vamos a agregar a una nueva cineasta. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you?
Well, welcome to our group.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay. You're right on time. We're just chatting.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll come to you.
Yeah.
I'll come to you in a minute, but the question and theme right now, or the question we're discussing right now, is representation and how your film is, well, representative of the type of movies that you want to see on screen. I'll come back to you in a minute, though. I'll let someone else answer so you can think of an answer. So, Vanessa, what do you think about this topic, representation, and how maybe Bibi speaks to what movies you want to see?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, like kind of echoing what Andres said, I think it's story is the most important, right? And I think we always have to remember that what we're doing is we're telling a story. Now, where representation is crucial is to make sure that you have people who are representative of that being a part of the team, right? So again, if you're telling a story about, let's say in our case, it's the LGBTQ community, obviously it's someone's personal story and they're giving they're able to tell that story best, right? And that I think is essential. I think that at times, obviously if we're looking at the trajectory of filmmaking, it was very few people that were able to tell stories of a mass, right? And so I think that that's when we're kind of bringing in the conversation of representation. I think it just stems from this idea of we should all be able to tell the stories that we want and make sure that we are inclusive of those that are going to add to the table.
Thank you, Vanessa. Cynthia, did you have any thoughts on this topic of representation, and how does your film address this?
I was just thinking that for me, after following my character, a Cuban musician, for 5 years, what was really important for me was to show how humble he was, and how he really related to his country roots, even though he got world famous, traveling the world with Buena Vista Social Club. It all came back to the roots, the small little area of Eastern Cuba where he was born and raised. So I wanted to bring that to the audience. It's really important. You see this world famous star, but then you go back to the roots of where he came from. And that's what I really worked hard to try to relay that to the audience.
Thank you, Cynthia. We have a lot of aspiring filmmakers who watch our movies, who see our Q&As, who want to become filmmakers themselves. What are some tips that you would give emerging filmmakers on the verge of maybe filming their first short film or feature-length films? En nuestro festival tenemos muchos espectadores que son, cineastas aspirantes, quizás no han montado su primer cortometraje o largometraje. ¿Qué tipo de consejos tendrán para ellos, ya que ustedes tienen esta experiencia? Does anyone want to go first? ¿Quién quiere comentar primero?
Yeah, I'll start. I think, for me, one of the most important things was finding other people who were working on similar projects, student films that needed help, and just finding that support within your own sort of community, and being able to wear many hats, because when you're an aspiring filmmaker, the roles get blurred a little bit, and you have to do more than one position at one time, but you learn a lot while you're doing that. And I think it's important to support each other as you're doing that. That was probably one of the biggest learning experiences for me.
Thanks, Victor. ¿Alguien más? Who else?
I would say,
sorry, we would both say,
Go ahead.
well, I'll go quickly, but I would say that it's also just like this idea of shedding any fear and just diving head on. I think that, nothing is fully formed or figured out. I mean, you have to prep as far as the story, but nothing is fully formed or figured out until you actually do it, right? So that's the thing, like practice is what's going to make you a stronger storyteller. So if you don't dive in, then you're lacking that. So you have to just make sure to just do it.
Thanks, Vanessa. Cynthia, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, number one, you've got your dream. You see it. You have to visualize it, even through all the ups and downs, which you're going to have. Filmmaking to me is the hardest thing I ever did, but the most rewarding as well. But hold on to that vision, and just through all the ups and downs, just hold on to it. Don't let anybody discourage you. Just follow your dreams and work your butt off, and just keep with it, and it'll all come together.
Thanks, Cynthia. Anyone else? ¿Alguien más? Andrés?
I was tratando de continuar con lo que dice Cintia. Solamente creo que esta es una profesión de nos. Quiero decir, recibes 100 no por cada sí. Todo está en contra, todo es no. Y cuando llega el sí, pues es muy, muy importante, ¿no? Entonces, es quizá perseguir ese sí todo el tiempo, digamos, que lo que ella hablaba, que tiene que ver con tus sueños y con tu motivación interna, ¿no? Esperar por el sí, aunque tarde mucho tiempo.
Sí. Thank you, Andrés. Now that all the filmmakers are here for this session, I want to go around and maybe for individuals who are tuning in on social media who may not have a clear synopsis or a description of your films, if you would, I'm going to call on you, and if you can just describe it maybe in 1 or 2 sentences. Ya que están aquí todos los cineastas, quiero, que el público que está escuchando, que se enteren del sinopsis, de lo que se trata su película. Es que voy a nombrar a cada uno y si nos pueden contar un poquito de su película. Luna, vamos a empezar contigo. ¿Qué nos cuentas de Tío Jim?
Bueno, Tío Jim es un documental, es un retrato de una familia muy singular, una familia zapoteca en Sierra Norte. Es mi familia, es la historia de mi padre y un proceso, una conversación ampliada de confrontaciones familiares, mezclada con mucho material de archivo de la familia y de mi padre. Prometo que hay mucha música y que también se van a reír. Es una película que hicimos con todo el corazón para compartir una pregunta que es cuántas formas hay de decir te quiero, y hacer una película también es una forma de decir te quiero.
Gracias, Luna. Victor and Vanessa, maybe you can do a duet. Tell us about Bibi.
Victor, you should go first. It's yours.
I'll tell you what the inspiration for the film was, and I'll have Vanessa tell us what the short is about. But the story is inspired by my boyfriend, who, when he was young, had a hard time speaking. And his dad would tell him, if you can't speak it, write it. So from a very young age, he had a relationship with his dad based on letters they would send each other. He was 4 and he would write to his dad, "Hi, Dad," put it somewhere for his dad to read. And the dad would respond, "Hi, son," and put in his teddy bear. For the next 12 years, that relationship developed as he grew and conversations got harder. So on the surface, what they would talk about would be very superficial things. Hola, pa, ¿cómo estuvo tu día? Bien. ¿Qué tal el trabajo? Bien. pero siempre llegaba una carta que hablaba de temas mucho más difíciles de hablar en persona, porque muchas veces para hombres es muy difícil hablar de temas que son, como latinos, como hombres, no estamos tan, a veces es más difícil hablar de cosas que nos llegan más al corazón. Entonces, lo hicimos él lo hacía a través de las cartas y es la inspiración. Pero les dejaré a Vanessa que les explique de qué es el corto.
Yeah, so yeah, again, BB's a story about forgiveness, and it really follows, a young professional lawyer going back home to kind of resolute the relationship with his father, who has passed, and through that, you kind of get to find out that why they had a falling out and how he's left with, this last letter that will reveal to him that his father, in fact, did accept him for who he is.
Thanks, Vanessa. Ray, tell us about the first Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah, this is a documentary. It took me about 12 years to make, so it's kind of an epic journey. And it's about a coalition in 1969 Chicago that brought together the Black Panther Party with a group called the Young Lords, which were primarily Puerto Rican, but also included Cubans, Mexicans, Argentinians, and a third group called the Young Patriots that were Southern Appalachians. So this alliance was called the Rainbow Coalition. And that term is familiar to some folks because Reverend Jesse Jackson ran for president using that under the Rainbow Coalition platform in 1983. But this is about the genesis of that idea of multi-ethnic alliances, crossing ethnic lines to form a power base, and the relevance of that in terms of but not only then, but also today, the potential of these multi-ethnic alliances to change our society. And so it's just a really brief story of this moment in time where people were willing to look outside of their own ethnic group to figure out ways to work with other groups in order to change the world around them.
Thanks, Ray. I spoke to a documentarian yesterday who said their documentary took similar amount of time to make, and she said that now she doesn't want to do it again for a long time. How do you feel?
I'm exactly. You can't do that. You can do, in my mind, you can do one film that takes that much time. I've had friends that have done four. I mean, that's not how you want a volume of things, but it just takes so much out of you to make a film like that. And I'm still recovering. I mean, the film premiered in October of last year, and I'm still, screening it and want to talk about it because I think there's so much to talk about in our communities about that story. But yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I would not willingly jump into a film that would take me 10 years or 12 years to do it. This one, I got dragged into it. I thought I was going to be done in 4 years, but then it just, well, as you know, it's all funding. I mean, it took a long time to get the funding, and in part because it's archive driven. The archival research was so expensive, as all of you know that make documentaries, and so I'm also trying to stay away from documentary driven films. It's a difficult climb to make.
Thanks for that feedback, Ray. Andres, let's talk about Feral. Let's talk about Andres. Cuéntanos de Feral.
Sí, Feral es una película de horror. Una amiga mía de Los Ángeles la describiría como un religious horror trip. Tiene mucho que es una película que mezcla el horror de la religión, el horror del ser humano, y es una historia extraña, es una película extraña, es una película que trata de dominar varios géneros o transitar por varios géneros, y básicamente es la historia de un ex monje que está recluido en la montaña, en donde encuentra a 3 niños salvajes y quiere civilizarlos en su manera de entender qué es la civilización, y eso sale terriblemente mal. Entonces, es ese viaje, es acompañar ese viaje desde un punto de vista hiperrealista y bueno, y espero que si les gusta el horror, pues les dé un poquito de miedo.
A mí sí, a mí me dio miedo.
Perfecto.
Pero soy miedoso.
Todos somos miedosos.
Cynthia, tell us about Eliades Ochoa.
Okay. Ray, I'm from the Chicago area, so I'm familiar with your story.
Oh, great.
Yeah. My story is, as I said, it's about a Cuban musician from the eastern part of Cuba who started out playing on the streets and brothels of eastern Cuba for coins. And he worked his way up, worked with different folk groups, and finally he made it with the Buena Vista Social Club, happened to be at the right place at the right time. But his main focus is keeping the root music of Cuba alive, which, as we all know, is difficult in this time and age with reggaeton and other types of music. So that was his ultimate goal. Also in the film, we focused on the traditional music of Cuba, which is from the eastern part, Santiago de Cuba. And the roots of that music, of course, coming from Africa, the African percussion, and the Spanish guitar is what makes the traditional music of Cuba. Everyone knows that Cuban music is rhythmic, very infectious, but what are the roots? Why? Why is it so infectious? So that's the story of both following him, which I did for 5 years, through 4 different countries. And the end result is him absolutely working very hard to keep that music alive in his native country.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Juan, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. When
We have even the programmers experience technical difficulties. We're not immune to technological failings.
Yeah, first of all, it's already hard enough, and then when technology fails, everything falls apart, right? Everything can fall apart when in such a structure.
Yeah, I realized I didn't even have an Ethernet cable in my house. I was like, wait, I have no Ethernet cable? How am I going to do this? But here we are. Anyways, what were you going to say?
I was going to mention about how with I was going to ask if you guys have had any chances to watch other virtual film festivals now that they started ramping up and screening their films. And in Mexico, I think Guanajuato is also going on right now. I'm guessing Morelia, I don't know if they have announced that they're going virtual, but they probably are. I mean, I don't know for sure. I would assume at this point, New York Film Festival is also virtual. So I was just wondering if you guys have had a chance to catch any of those films, or if you're looking forward to now that you actually don't have to go to the site to actually maybe catch it online yourself.
I was able to catch some films at the Black Star Film Festival. And at first, the whole thing with the festivals and watching online, because I miss the festivals, you miss seeing everybody and, having fun and seeing it with audiences. But I actually started enjoying it. I mean, it's a different experience, of course, but, the strength of the film still come through. And so that's, I took that in and I was able to watch it with headphones. So it's kind of a different, a little more immersive in some ways. But I saw Loida Limbal's film Through the Night, which I think it just premiered at the maybe 2 months ago, and I really enjoyed it. And I would not have been able to go to the film festival anyway. If there was no COVID, I wouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, I thought, wow, I got a new experience that I wouldn't have received. And I believe I've been reading up about the festivals, and I have a feeling that maybe what's being created now is going to continue. It'll be a hybrid thing, maybe, where people will still have film festivals, and then they'll also have an online component if they can work things out with the filmmakers, because I think they're getting new audiences this way. I mean, people can't physically go to Philadelphia. So, maybe this is a way to sort of get new faces, because I think we're all trying to get audiences. So maybe there's a way to work this out post-COVID, because I keep thinking we have to try to think beyond this crazy reality that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's to kind of try to think if what this is doing for the film industry as a whole, right? So I think like you said, Ray, there's definitely opportunities. There's obviously things that we all miss about film festivals. I'm actually working with the Guadalajara Film Festival, and yes, it's going to be a hybrid festival. And I think that one of the big things, again, it's like, how do we engage with audiences and how do we make it friendly for them? You know, I think that one of the things is the idea of going to a festival, sometimes it's like you just have like the box office down and you know where you're going and you're doing all of that, right? So it's like sometimes adding that component of technology the first year is always going to be like, oh, like I think I was at the New York Film Festival website yesterday and I was like, okay, seems very like, this is the time it's going to open up and then this is playing, this is sold out. And it just like, again, I think just all of it on a screen sometimes can be a bit much, but it's also just us as an audience getting used to that, as opposed to going to the actual box office and saying, hey, it's closed.
Anybody?
This is actually my first virtual film festival, so I'm a virgin. Thank you. It's amazing. I like it so far. I've done a couple of conferences virtually, but film festival, this is the first one.
Well, we're glad that you're participating with us.
Yes.
We have another filmmaker joining us in a minute. I think there's room for everyone to stay on in the stream, so we don't have to initiate phase 2 just yet. I think he's ready. I see him adjusting his camera. I'm going to surprise him. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you virtually.
Welcome to the party.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
Ben,
Hello.
Morning, Ben.
Ben is an overachiever with 2 documentaries in her festival. John Leguizamo's The Road to Broadway and Raul Julia, The World to Stage. Welcome, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here.
Very cool. So we already went around and maybe shared brief synopsis of our films. Do you want to say something about your documentaries?
Sure. Well, the first one is John Leguizamo's Road to Broadway, which is about capturing the journey of John as he mounts his latest one-man show, which is his effort to kind of cram all the Latin history into one stage show for Broadway. So we captured his whole journey to Broadway and beyond. So that's the first film. The second film is called Raul Julia, The World to Stage, and it was an American Masters film that was basically capturing the life of this Puerto Rican actor who died far too young, who was a great Shakespearean actor. A lot of people knew him as Gomez from the Addams Family, but he had so much more in his body of work, and that really captures his story as an artist and as a humanitarian. So those are the 2 films.
And we also asked individuals to share how they're staying creative during these pandemic times. Can you maybe share some outlets that you're utilizing, or has this been a productive period for you artistically?
Yeah, I would say, it's had a little different dimensions, different levels and whatnot. In the beginning, the shock, of course, of shutting everything down and kind of transferring our business to virtual, and all my staff, that was a little bit of a lot of growing pains, but we've been able to keep creative. We're developing several projects that were already in the works before. We've got some new things. We've shot a few commercials, and we're keeping busy. And we also run a conference called the Hispanicize Conference. So we're doing our second virtual summit, October 15th. Everybody's invited, by the way. You can register for free. So yeah, so it's been busy. We've been trying to just keep it going. Like it's playing it by ear, but controlling what we can control.
Thanks, Ben. Another question for the group, and this is broad, but hopefully we can get some good feedback on it. Was there a particular film that you saw that maybe put you on this journey of being a filmmaker? En español, la pregunta es, ¿hay una película en particular que los inspiró a empezar esta carrera, este camino como cineastas? Raise your hand. You can say 2 or 3 movies. Pueden decir 2 o 3 películas, no tiene que ser solamente una. ¿Quién quiere empezar? Andrés.
Para mí, es una pequeña historia, porque para mí, yo soy de San Luis Potosí, es una ciudad en el centro de México, y teníamos 3 cines en la ciudad solamente, 3 cines de 3 salas, y hay, o sea, un cine de 3 salas, pues, y ahí llegaba una vez al año la muestra internacional de cine. Entonces adquirías un boleto para todas las funciones. Y yo tendría, yo creo, 12 años, una cosa así. Y en ese entonces la primera película era Los Highway, de David Lynch, que yo no entendí nada de la película, pero me pareció muy, muy brutal. Y entender o sentir que eso se podía hacer en una película y que uno podía salir de la sala con una mezcla de confusión, emoción total, como que ahí es cuando para mí fue un momento decisivo en el cual dije, yo quiero hacer eso, ¿no? Y a partir de ahí nunca me perdí una muestra en la ciudad. Entonces, digamos, también habla de lo importante que es llevar el cine a todos lados, ¿no? Porque nunca sabes dónde hay un aficionado o nunca sabes dónde hay alguien que esté dispuesto a seguir una profesión tan difícil y loca como esta por simplemente una cosa tan sencilla como ir al cine, ¿no?
Gracias, Andrés. Who else? ¿Quién más? ¿No ven películas? You guys don't watch movies? Luna. Luna, ¿qué opinas?
Bueno, creo que me gustaría hablar de una película que se llama El perro andaluz, de Buñuel, y que mi maestro de prepa nos la puso como una trampa y nos dijo, a ver, véanla y díganme qué se trató, ¿no? Una película totalmente surrealista, y haber visto esta película y haberme esforzado durante toda una tarde con todos mis compañeros tratar de entender cuál era la historia, y después de haber visto La fórmula secreta de Rubén Mes, que también es una película como de estilo experimental, como que ese impulso, ¿no? O sea, como de la fuerza de la imagen y de lo que puede generar esas imágenes, que aunque no tengan una conexión narrativa clásica, tienen un impulso y un poder alucinante, ¿no? O sea, siguen siendo de mis películas favoritas, ¿no?
¿Y les puso el profesor como broma la del perro andaluz?
Sí, o sea, como que quería que le explicáramos cuál era la historia, ¿no? Pero pues es una película surrealista, entonces por más que nos esforzáramos en hacer la historia del perro andaluz, pues no funciona, ¿no? Porque es una peli totalmente surreal, ¿no? Entonces, yo recuerdo como con mucho gusto ese experimento, ¿no? De tratar de forzar la cabeza, de encontrar una historia donde no hay una historia, ¿no? Y más bien como entender el poder de esa serie de imágenes conectadas, pues, ¿no? Y de la gran amplitud de interpretaciones que puedes tener en ese hilado de imágenes, ¿no?
Gracias, Luna. Who else? Vanessa, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kid, I would say that this was really fun, but it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I think what that just said, why it pops in my head is like something that I would watch over and over again. So again, for a kid, it's kind of like what makes you just connect and like just to some in some way, shape, or form. It was, I guess, aspirational for me. But I think as I was in college in my formative years, it was actually Y Tu Mamá También, and I think part of that was because I really saw how, you know, like I went to a school that was obviously, you know, it was a minority of Latino students, and it was actually a friend of mine who would come in every time at lunch and would just gather a group of kids and would be like, we have to go watch this movie, it's like amazing. And so then we'd all go see this movie, and then it's like, then you would tell someone else. So I think it was like the power of film and allowing people to see like what I perceive to be part of like my background and my culture. And so I think that that's what I really like, why that really stood out, because I think that was the first time that I just saw an audience member, again, like someone who's watching a film, just really connect with it and being able to kind of talk about it. And I think that sometimes with film, it's like we forget the power of word of mouth and how important it is that it captures someone, you know, and that they're able to then just kind of spread that word.
Thanks, Vanessa. Ben, do you have any films that maybe inspired you to begin your your career as a filmmaker?
Yeah, well, I came up like in theater first as a musical theater actor, so I've always been into musicals. And one of the films that really kind of affected me, had an impact, was Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory, like the old one. Back in the day, for some reason, I really liked the musicality and like the movie musical to this point that it's affected like even the kinds of projects that I go after that have some kind of music or theater element to it. So that was one that really inspired me. And then, of course, when I got older, I loved like Citizen Kane. I just saw that as like such a flawless movie. So that's one that stuck with me and inspired me for sure.
Thanks, Ben.
For me,
Victor, sorry.
You know, I really grew up loving movies that had this child element where the protagonist is a child. So one story that I've watched probably 100 times is Cinema Paradiso, the Italian film. It's just it's something that I go to when I'm feeling good, when I'm feeling bad. It's just something that I can put on TV and just really sort of relive those moments of my own childhood. And the fact that it mixes cinema as part of the storytelling, I think, is genius. And another one is Y Tu Mamá También, same as Vanessa, for many of the same reasons you said. You know, it was just such a great movie that I felt really mixed what I know of my life with my culture and my family's culture, and sort of bringing those two together. And finally, a classic that I watched over and over again is To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck. I just love that movie. I think it's amazing.
Thanks, Victor. I kind of want to hear from everyone. So, Cynthia, do you want to share?
Yeah. For me, it was obvious when it was Social Club. That film came out around 1997, 98. Then I took my first trip to Cuba in the year 2000, and I happened to see Iliadis Ochoa playing in the Salon de Grandes at La Casa de la Trova. So, you know, I had just seen him 3 years previous. And I remember seeing the first time I saw one of his Social Club. And what stands out to me is they interviewed each one of the musicians, the older musicians that got together, which is just such a great story. They were all but forgotten. I don't know, the story of what it is and stuff. But they shot Iliadis out on the railroad tracks in the industrial part of Santiago. Here he is in all black Stetson cowboy hat, cowboy boots. And that image really stuck in my mind. I said to my mother, because I wanted her to see it, because I had just started going to Cuba right after that. And I said to her, I'm going to interview this man, this musician. And that was just a dream at that point. I mean, really it was. And my mother kind of looked at me and said, okay, Cynthia, okay. And of course, everything comes full circle. It took me 4 years of just going to Casa de la Trova and getting an interview with him, and then full circle making the full documentary. So that will always be. The other film that I really enjoyed was the film on Urban Product. My name is not Ruben Blades, the very famous musician, of course, from Panama. And any documentaries on music, Rolling Stones are my favorite, Beatles, anything like that. I've always enjoyed a lot. So.
That's awesome. Ray, what do you think? What are some films that have inspired you or formed you as a filmmaker?
I'll just say two because it's kind of like runs the gamut. And the first one would be City Lights by Charlie Chaplin. And the main reason that sticks out is because I remember seeing it when I was 18, 19. But that it's such an old film. There's no dialogue because it's those subtitles, and you can still get the emotion of the film. So to me, a couple of things. One, it was like, to me, it showed that film could be a film from one culture could enact emotions in any other culture. And then also at that time, the filmic language was so rudimentary. I mean, the camera's pretty much static. All the movements taking place within the frame. but it's still, you get an emotional responce to it. And I think that's, I mean, you laugh and cry. I mean, that's the whole, like, you know, the theater, you know, the laughing and crying symbol. And so to me, that was like the core of the strength of cinema, is it can be international and it can be timeless, because again, these are films from 1918 and it still works today. So that really had a big impact on me. And the second one I'll just toss out, because there's so many great films out there. I was thinking, which films should I talk about? Would this be The Red Shoes by Powell and Pressburger? The directing duo, that's Michael Powell, Emmerich Pressburger from England. And they have a bunch of films there, like Peeping Tom is one. But The Red Shoes has these fantastical sections where the woman's dancing, the play of The Red Shoes, and it's dreamlike, and it's like an experimental film, a big budget experimental film. And I was really impressed by the visuals of it, and you just saw this how you could just create a whole new world in the cinema. It's like a dream world. And something about that film has really resonated for me. And actually, he's one of my favorite directors, Michael Powell. And anyway, I think those two are really like sort of this sort of, I'm really interested in things that can resonate with across the world and also have personal resonance. And I think those two films do that.
Thanks, Ray. We're approaching the 1 hour mark, or the cap for this session. So maybe just another question. And we can maybe make this kind of a closing statement. I guess if you could sum up what message you want to promote with your film to an audience, or what you want them to walk out of these virtual screenings with about your film, what message do you hope that is? Or maybe this can be an opportunity to share your artistic statement as it's related to this particular film. Nos interesa saber si hay un mensaje o, bueno, un tesis que quieren que el público entienda después de ver su película. ¿Cuál mensaje quieren promover con su cinta? Who wants to go first? ¿Quién quiere primero?
Bueno, yo...
Luna, la valiente, always.
Ya había comenzado un poco a plantear, más que un mensaje, a mí lo que me interesa, y como no solo a mí, todo el equipo de la película Tío Jim, es plantear una pregunta que es: ¿cuántas formas hay de decir te quiero? Que para mí ha sido una pregunta fundamental para transformar el modo en el que veo los afectos y la demostración de ellos, ¿no? Y que justamente el cine, ¿no?, ha hecho una construcción desde el cine hegemónico, por decirlo de una forma, ¿no?, de una forma de expresión de afectos, ¿no? Y que justamente la diversidad cultural que habita en este mundo tiene una diversidad de formas de expresar afectos. Y para mí era muy importante como poder enunciar esa pregunta y que el espectador en cualquier parte del mundo se pueda contestar cómo es la forma de decir te quiero en mi lugar de donde vivo, donde crecí, ¿no? Y poder hacer una diferencia entre lo que hemos visto en el cine justamente y las formas en las que realmente tenemos, y que justamente como no todas las culturas han tenido, digamos, una justa representación, pues es difícil, ¿no?, a veces encontrarte como con tu propia cultura y entender que tu cultura tiene otras formas de expresar los afectos, ¿no? Y para mí es muy importante por eso que existan la diversidad de las representaciones, porque justamente podemos construir nuestros propios mundos, ¿no?, nuestras propias formas de ver el mundo y nuestras propias formas de comunicar lo que queremos o lo que deseamos, ¿no? Y por ahí va la película Tío Jim. Espero que la disfruten mucho.
Gracias, Luna. Victor, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think the message that we would love audiences to be left with is that it's never too late. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness. It's never too late to reach out to somebody that you've had a falling out with in some, way in your life. And that, if you can't say it verbally, if you can't say it in a verbal conversation, write a letter. Tell somebody through in writing. Give them the time to digest whatever it is that you want to tell them, and then see what may happen from that conversation.
Thank you, Victor. Vanessa.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's ever a time to write a letter, it's now, right? We're so disconnected. If you're tired of the Zoom, you can write a letter. But I think also, just like an anecdote of previous screenings that we've had. One of our exec producers, a producer on the film, Edward, he really has had these moments where people come up to him, because this movie is about coming out in the Latino community, where someone really resonated with that, and that gave them courage to kind of, talk to their aunt and tell them that they should reach out to their son. So I think that is the most probably, if that happens to you, or if that somehow moves them, that's like the most rewarding thing, I think, as anybody who's working on a project.
Thank you, Vanessa. Ray, what message are you trying to leave audiences with?
Yeah, the film basically says it is that, the history of this country is often people in power trying to split our communities, pitting us against the black community against the poor white community. And what our film shows is that it's in our interest as communities to want to make change, to look at the possibility of alliances outside of our own communities. And when that has happened, one is you see change happening, but two is you see that there's often a very violent government response, because they know that is a way to gain power. And that's the message of the film, is that we can work together to create positive changes in our community, but there's forces that don't want us to do that. So we need to kind of look with them as, if we want the change to happen, what can we do to make it happen? And alliances and coalitions are a way to do that. That's the story of our film.
Thank you, Ray. Andrés, sigues.
Sí, el mensaje, bueno, yo creo que quizá yo tengo un mensaje un poco más oscuro, no sé si más oscuro, pero para mí, o lo que he entendido, digamos, como los dos pilares de mi cuerpo de obra, o de lo que me gusta desarrollar, está en la religión y la familia. Y los horrores que yo veo en ambos componentes, que veo como componentes clásicos y fundamentales de la sociedad. Y a mí me parece que, digamos, Feral en particular también es una película que llama hacia cuando estos dos pilares, como la familia o la religión, son tomados, empiezan a tomar estructuras de la sociedad que no deben, pueden crear pues realmente cosas espantosas y liberar monstruos terribles de cualquiera de nosotros, por más buenos o razonables que nos consideremos. Porque para mí es una realidad que en el pleno siglo XX siga sucediendo esto y estemos ante un peligro muy inminente, aunque no lo veamos o no hablemos mucho de ello, muy inminente, de que las fuerzas digamos, las fuerzas religiosas y los mensajes familiares equivocados puedan realmente desatar a monstruos y convertir nuestra sociedad en cenizas. Entonces, eso es para mí una preocupación y una fascinación dentro del horror, y es algo que me gustaría compartir, o que me gusta compartir con el mundo, ¿no?
Gracias, Andrés. Cynthia, tell us about what message you hope your film, or what message you hope your people watching your movie, walk away with.
I just hope that the music is very uplifting to people. I think that it absolutely, music is a bridge. And when you get into a country like Cuba and the political ramifications, it doesn't matter. The political thing is just not important. It's the music, it's the bridge between countries and people. Particularly during the pandemic, I have found that music, quarantining mainly on my own for the last 6-7 months, music, Pandora, your Spotify, it just gets you through the day. It makes you forget, takes you away from all the problems. And I'm just hoping that people walk out. That's the common, feedback I get, that it's just a very uplifting film about the music, and it makes you feel good. When we premiered the film in Miami, of course, there were a lot of Cuban American people there. And I got such emotional, Cuba's an emotional topic. And of course, in Miami, very, very prevalent. But I got people coming up, women in tears, thanking me for bringing their music, because they haven't been back to Cuba for all these years. And it's an emotional thing. And it just was such a good feeling to get the feedback from these people that were hearing their music, that haven't been able to go back to be in their country. So that's generally the overwhelming feeling I believe, I hope, that the audience gets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Ben, do you want to close out the discussion? I think you muted yourself.
I would say that the two films that I had, the message that I'm trying to say with both of them is pretty similar. With the John Leguizamo Road to Broadway, it's about highlighting the incredible contributions that Latinos have had in history. And there's a really great quote that John says when he talks about, can you imagine how people would look at our culture and our community if they knew all the incredible contributions we had given to this country? And more importantly, can you imagine how our kids and our people would look at ourselves? So I think that's the important message for that film. And then for the Raul Julia one, it was, the film came to me as an idea because I saw Raul doing a backstage interview when he was really young. And he was talking about how when he started doing Shakespeare, he tried to imitate the British accents, but then he realized at a certain point that he could just bring his own Puerto Rican essence, his own culture, his own flavor to Shakespeare and to everything that he did. That he didn't really have to close himself and make barriers that they didn't exist. So for me, that spoke to me, and I think that's something as an artist that I try to do in my career. I don't try to limit myself to anything. So those are the two messages I hope people get out of the films.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much to all of our participants. Mil gracias a todos los que participaron y todos los que nos están escuchando. Thank you to everyone who's listening to us or seeing us on social media. Thank you for your comments. Luna, Ray, Vanessa, Victor, Andres, Cynthia, Ben, best of luck on all of your future endeavors. Mucha suerte con todos sus proyectos del futuro. Gracias por tener la película aquí en nuestro festival. Gracias por el permiso. Es un gran honor para nosotros. Thank you so much for giving us permission to screen your films. It's really an honor. Juan, do you have anything else to say before we log off? You're muted.
Having all kinds of technical problems. Want to thank you guys so much for joining us, and for the audience that's watching. As a reminder, a lot of these films are playing today, and if you miss them today, a lot of them are going to have an extra screening throughout the week. So make sure you check them out, and then a lot of these films are also going to have Q&A, so you can hear from the filmmakers more in depth on the film itself. And again, a lot of them are going to be live, so you can log in and ask questions, and you get a very direct perspective from their point of view. Muchas gracias por habernos acompañado.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Guys.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.